March 4th, 1910, 9:45 p.m. Rogers Pass, British Columbia. Canadian Pacific Railway maintenance shed. William LaChance hears the mountain roar. He's 29 years old. Track foreman. He's inside the shed with 7 other workers. His crew waiting out a blizzard before they can clear snow from the tracks. The roar is getting louder. Not wind, not train. Something else. He looks at the door. Snow is falling so thick he can't see 20 feet, but he knows that sound. Everyone who works Rogers Pass knows that sound. Avalanche. He moves toward the door, shouts at his crew to run. The building shudders. The roof groans. Then the avalanche hits. 300,000 tons of snow traveling 120 kilometers per hour. The shed disintegrates in 2 seconds. William and his 7 crew members are buried under 12 meters of snow. Rescue teams arrive 40 minutes later, dig for 6 hours, find 8 bodies, no survivors. This is the 8th avalanche fatality on Rogers Pass in 1910. By year's end, the total will be 62 railway workers dead. Not from construction accidents, not from tunnel collapses, from snow, from avalanches, from working on the deadliest section of railway track in Canadian history. And in 1910, the Canadian Pacific Railway finally admits Rogers Pass can't be protected. It has to be avoided. The solution? Build a tunnel, not through the pass, under it. 5 miles of tunnel boring through the Selkirk Mountains, deep enough that avalanches can't reach it, long enough to bypass the entire avalanche zone. Construction will take 6 years, cost $5 million, and kill 62 workers, but it will save thousands of lives over the next century. This is the Connaught Tunnel, built in blood to eliminate death. Rogers Pass was the Canadian Pacific Railway's greatest engineering challenge. The railway had to cross the Selkirk Mountains in British Columbia, a 130-kilometer section of peaks, valleys, and year-round snow. The original survey in 1881 identified Rogers Pass as the only practical route, elevation 1,330 meters, the lowest crossing point in the Selkirks. Construction crews built the line through the pass in 1884 to 1885. The railway opened November 1885. The avalanches started immediately. Winter 1885 to 1886. First deaths. 3 track workers buried by slide near the summit. The Canadian Pacific Railway installed snow sheds, wooden structures covering the tracks to deflect avalanches. By 1887, time equals 400 milliseconds, greater than /31 snow sheds protected 6 kilometers of track through Rogers Pass. Seemed to work. The deaths stopped, but the snow sheds created new problems. Heavy snow loads collapsed roofs. Fires started from locomotive sparks. Maintenance was constant and expensive, and the sheds didn't stop all avalanches, just diverted them. Slides still hit uncovered sections. Workers still died. 1899, worst year before 1910. Avalanche destroyed snow shed and buried work train. 14 deaths. The railway added more sheds, extended existing ones, stationed permanent crews at Rogers Pass. Time equals 300 milliseconds greater than for snow removal and avalanche patrol. By 1902, snow sheds covered 9 kilometers, nearly continuous wooden tunnels protecting the tracks. The strategy failed. The avalanches were too big, too frequent, too unpredictable. Rogers Pass averages 10 meters of snowfall annually. The terrain is perfect for avalanches. Steep slopes, heavy snow accumulation, no tree cover at summit elevations. Slides occurred 40 to 60 times per winter. Most were small. Some were catastrophic. March 4th, 1910 was catastrophic. The avalanche that killed William LaChance and his crew. Time equals 300 milliseconds, was not the only slide that day. At 11:20 p.m., 90 minutes after the first slide, a second avalanche hit rescue crews digging for survivors. The rescue avalanche buried 58 rescuers, trapped them under snow, killed 58 more men. Total deaths. March 4th, 1910. 62 railway workers and rescuers. The worst avalanche disaster in Canadian history, all happening in 95 minutes on the same mountain. The Canadian Pacific Railway shut down Rogers Pass operations for 1 week. Investigated. Calculated. The conclusion was undeniable. Protecting Rogers Pass was impossible. Avalanches would keep killing workers. Time equals 1,450 milliseconds / the only solution was to eliminate surface operations entirely. Go underground. Build a tunnel long enough and deep enough that avalanches couldn't reach trains or workers. The Connaught Tunnel project was approved October 1912. Engineering plan: bore 8 kilometers through Mount Macdonald and Cheops Mountain, bypassing Rogers Pass summit entirely. Tunnel would run 200 to 300 meters below surface, deep enough that avalanche forces couldn't penetrate. Trains would enter at the west portal near Glacier, travel 8 kilometers underground, emerge at east portal near Rogers Pass station. Surface track through the avalanche zone would be abandoned. Construction started July 1913. 2 construction companies, one boring from west, one from east. They would meet in the middle. Standard tunnel boring technique: drill holes, pack with dynamite, blast rock, remove debris, advance 3 to 5 meters per day. Estimated completion: 30 months. Actual completion: 40 months. December 1916. The work was brutal. Tunnel temperature averaged 27 degrees Celsius, hot from geothermal heat and poor ventilation. Miners worked in darkness lit by carbide lamps. Blasting created toxic fumes. Time equals 450 milliseconds / carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, rock dust. Ventilation shafts were inadequate. Men passed out from lack of oxygen. Some died from gas exposure before they could be pulled to fresh air. The geology was unstable. Sections of tunnel required timber supports every 2 meters to prevent collapse. Other sections hit underground water, flooding the tunnel, drowning equipment, forcing workers to retreat. The west heading hit a major aquifer in March 1915. Water flow 2,000 gallons per minute. Took 3 months to pump it dry and resume boring. Deaths came from blasting accidents: rock falls, equipment failures, gas exposure, and drowning. The official count: 62 workers killed during construction. Not 61, not 63, exactly 62. The same number who died March 4th, 1910. Grim symmetry. The tunnel built to prevent avalanche deaths cost exactly as many lives to construct as the disaster that justified building it. Giovanni Battista was one of the 62nd. Age 24. Italian immigrant. Arrived Canada, 1912. Hired for tunnel work, 1914. He was a mucker, the laborer who shoveled blasted rock into carts for removal. Dangerous work, standing directly where rock fell from blast damage. On September 17, 1915, a rockfall killed him. 300 kilograms of granite fell from the tunnel roof, hit him directly, crushed his skull. He died instantly. His body was shipped to his family in Italy. They never saw where he worked, never saw the tunnel. Just received a coffin and a letter explaining their son died boring a hole through a Canadian mountain. If you want to understand how 62 men died building a tunnel that saved thousands of lives from avalanches, hit that like button. It helps us share these infrastructure tragedy stories. Subscribe if you haven't already. Back to Rogers Pass. The tunnel progressed slowly. West heading averaged 90 meters per month. East heading averaged 75 meters per month. By December 1915, after 29 months of work, the 2 headings were still 600 meters apart. Surveyors worried about alignment. If the headings missed each other, the entire project failed. In January 1916, both crews heard the others blasting through the rock. They were close, aligned correctly. Success was near. The breakthrough happened December 19, 1916, at 4:30 p.m. Time equals 1,650 milliseconds / The west heading blasted through the remaining rock separating the 2 tunnels. Miners from both sides met underground for the first time in 40 months. The alignment was perfect. Center lines matched within 30 centimeters horizontally, 15 centimeters vertically. Extraordinary accuracy for 8 kilometers of tunnel bushed from opposite directions using 1913 surveying technology. The celebration was muted. 62 men had died. The tunnel was complete, but the cost was visible. Every crew member knew someone who had been killed. The project's success felt inseparable from its casualties. One miner wrote in his journal, "We broke through today. 8 kilometers of tunnel, 8 kilometers of graves. I'm glad it's done. I'm glad I survived. I'm not glad about any of it." The Connaught Tunnel opened to rail traffic. December 9, 1916. First train, westbound freight carrying grain from Alberta to Vancouver. Travel time through tunnel, 10 minutes. Travel time over Rogers Pass summit, 45 minutes. The tunnel eliminated 7 kilometers of avalanche-prone track, 31 snow sheds, and the constant danger that killed 62 men in March 1910. The surface track was abandoned immediately. Rails were left in place, too expensive to remove. Snow sheds were dismantled or allowed to collapse naturally. Within 5 years, the forest reclaimed Rogers Pass summit. The railway that killed hundreds of workers between 1885 and 1910 no longer existed. Trains traveled underground, safe from avalanches, safe from snow, built on 62 graves to protect future lives. The tunnel worked exactly as designed. 0 avalanche deaths after 1916. 0 snow removal crews needed. 0 emergency rescues from buried trains. The Canadian Pacific Railway calculated that by 1950, 34 years after opening, the tunnel had prevented an estimated 200 avalanche deaths based on pre-1916 death rates. Time equals 2,200 milliseconds. By 2000, 600 prevented deaths. By 2024, over 1,000 lives saved. Giovanni Battista died so those 1,000 people could live. That's not poetic, that's mathematical. His death, and the 61 others, bought safety for everyone who traveled through Rogers Pass after December 1916. The tunnel exists because 62 men died building it, and thousands of people are alive because the tunnel exists. The Connaught Tunnel operated as the main line through Rogers Pass until 1988. Then the Canadian Pacific Railway built the Mount Macdonald Tunnel, a second larger tunnel parallel to Connaught, increasing capacity for modern freight traffic. The Connaught Tunnel still operates, now used for eastbound trains, while Mount Macdonald handles westbound. Both tunnels bypass Rogers Pass. Both eliminate avalanche danger. Both exist because of lessons learned from 62 deaths in March 1910 and 62 more deaths during construction 1913 to 1916. The surface route through Rogers Pass is now the Trans-Canada Highway, open 1962. Drivers cross Rogers Pass daily. Most don't know that 100 meters below them are 2 railway tunnels. Most don't know about William LaChance or Giovanni Battista. Don't know about the 62 who died in one night or the 62 who died over 3 years. They just drive over the pass and continue west. There's a memorial now, erected by Parks Canada in 1992 at Rogers Pass Summit. Lists the names of workers killed in avalanches, 1885 to 1910. 62 names from March 4th, 1910. William LaChance is there, so are his 7 crew members and the 54 rescuers. The plaque reads, "In memory of those who lost their lives building and operating the Canadian Pacific Railway through Rogers Pass." Doesn't mention the Connaught Tunnel. Doesn't list Giovanni Battista or the 61 others killed during construction. Their deaths are commemorated elsewhere, in Italian cemeteries, family records, immigration documents. Time equals 2,950 milliseconds/not at Rogers Pass, not where they died. Some things don't fit on memorials. You can't engrave the specific sound William LaChance heard, the roar of 300,000 tons of snow traveling 120 kilometers per hour, the warning that came 3 seconds before death. You can't memorialize Giovanni Battista's calculation, accepting dangerous work because feeding family in Italy mattered more than personal safety in Canada. You can't capture the decision the Canadian Pacific Railway made, spending $5 million and 62 lives to build a tunnel because continuing to lose workers to avalanches was operationally and morally unsustainable. But here's what remains. The Connaught Tunnel operates today, 108 years after opening. Trains pass through every day. Thousands of travelers, millions of tons of freight, all traveling safely because 62 workers died preventing future avalanche deaths. The tunnel exists as a permanent trade, 62 lives in exchange for eliminating the avalanche zone. Mathematics we accepted then. Mathematics we benefit from now. Rogers Pass Summit is quiet. No trains, no workers, just highway traffic passing over what was once the deadliest railway section in Canada. The avalanches still come, 40 to 60 per winter, same as 1910. They hit empty slopes now, bury nothing, kill no one, because 200 meters underground, trains travel through rock that avalanches can't penetrate, through a tunnel bored by men who died so others wouldn't have to.